Greetings and welcome. I am Joffrey, and it is the same day that I was recording the introduction to the Mega Campaign series. However, now I think it's time, with the fact that I'm about to start working on publishing the EU4 segment of the Mega Campaign, I explained to you all what the starting situation of EU4 was, post-TK3, to catch everyone up to speed. I know it's been a long time, so we may as well add some in-between refreshers for the series. So, to get things started, with myself and Egypt, unsurprisingly. The dominions of Xantor are currently ruled by High Sovereign Jafar Xantor, a name that you will soon see is quite prevalent in the dynasty, through no fault of my own, I promise. It just really likes the name Joffrey when it automatically rolls things. We have lost the vast majority of the dominions, save only for the single Republic of Laventia to the north, a single holdout of strength against the now disloyal subjects up here. Everything from the Northern Dominion, the Exilic Dominions, and the New Angloland, which is a Anglo-Saxon realm, led by André de Toulouse, republic of them, in fact. That is Catholic. They shall need to be subjugated, of course. However, quite outside our control is there is a fellow Ibrahim Xantor, who is a relative of the family who inherited some land up here during the game. He will shortly be taken care of, I assure you, by the multiple players that want this land. Now, over in the east, we have Kemet, who, well, he had at one point subjugated all of Syria, Nubia, Kush, Abyssinia. However, things are proving a little more difficult for him now. He has two marshals, Nubia, and the viceroyalty of Retenu. However, their loyalty is somewhat questionable, and if anyone was to make a move on him early, they would quite swiftly be able to make said vassals disloyal. Meanwhile, a completely separate Kemetid branch of the Kemetid dynasty has split away in Abyssinia, who is still old Egyptian. However, his realm barely has any of their culture, and relies on religion to enforce their rule. To the north, we have Portugal, who has, well, the Portugal player, I don't believe, actually managed to conquer Portugal themselves, and instead had just expanded underneath Portugal as a vassal, and as a result, the Dos Santos family is taken over playing. They are still Islamic, though. To the north as well, New Mycenae needed to be split up post-game. Same with Arlay, with the lands in the middle, in central and southern Italy being split off into various warring states of the various religions left in the region. With New Mycenae still having much in the way of religious and cultural disarray post-Mongol occupation, I guess you could describe it as. The Empire of the Greeks still remaining quite powerful in the east comparably. It is a great question as to whether or not New Mycenae will be able to recover from this situation. To the west of Arlay, we have Zarfat, which has eked its way into EU4 after having been brutally battered and beaten by several neighboring factions. And now, despite the Netherlands being someone who wished to play tall and not leave their homeland, they have simply overpowered this country of Zarfat, which was intending to go much wider. However, someone who complains much louder than Zarfat was the former player of England. England originally was played by a fellow named Dracat, but due to his failed invasions of the mainland, civil unrest grew at home until the vassals and other members of his family revolted, and now the Scottish are independent. And I think, yeah, the Welsh too, with only the single duchy of Powys left in Wales under his control. Not that there's any forts there. I believe Ireland as well, ironically enough, is currently ruled by a queen of the same dynasty that rules the Netherlands. I don't quite remember how that came about, but such is the way of things. Meanwhile, Scandinavia is poised in a very dominant position. They have lost much of their lands that they held on the mainland, which is a good thing because they have a vast amount of development. They have some vassals on the mainland yet, from which they can use to spread their influence once more amongst the Slavodoxic lands. However, this is yet to be seen. Meanwhile, Muscovy, under the Rurikoviches worshipping the Slavodoxic faith, had an extraordinary game in Crusader Kings. In fact, they managed to spread their religion to the Scandinavians, and a close friendship is forming between the two nations, who see the growing influence of our lay over the various players and powers in Europe as a threat to their own interests, and may well seek to exert their own authority quickly while their chance still is there. However, currently Muscovy is stuck in a war against the Ruthenians, who have split away in the meantime, with the faith still being dominant in the region outside of Lithuania, though. In every timeline, of course, Lithuania being the stronghold of paganism in Europe. Moving eastwards further, Fergana sits as a shockingly strong power. Many underestimated it. However, the player Mags, who took over the region at the beginning of the game, is extraordinarily good at playing tall, and while he did expand outside of the region with vassals, various sheikdoms, in the intervening time, he managed to develop up the valley and its adjacent valuable regions, which had special wonders and other such things, to an extraordinary extent, and his 26 development in his capital is both greater than Constantinople, greater than Prague, which was a standout point in the game, greater than Rome, greater than Toulon, which is the capital of the Arlesian realm, greater than Paris by a wide margin, and certainly stronger than The Hague. And as a result, they quite simply, Gen is the most developed part of Xantor, and that doesn't come close either. The point is, there is no other place any player held except no one comes within 4 points even of reaching his capital strength. It is a very impressive game, and he has a shocking amount of development as well. His main rival being the Bavandids, though, are a very strong power because they have even more development, of course, and the Zoroastrian faith, and as is well known, the Zoroastrian Persia is incredibly strong, somewhat overtuned, some would say. And the player who was going to be playing Fergana still was not very experienced at the EU4 and chose to bow out. However, he does return later in a way that none of us would have expected. So in the meantime, Fergana is swapped between various substitute players who handle it with varying levels of success. The Chinese colony of southern India has done very well for his first game. The player, St. Nicholas, on the server is not experienced with EU4, and in fact this Mega was his first time playing EU4. He plays CK3, but I believe that was somewhat an introduction to the game for him as well, CK3. It was originally started by a different player, William, who was somewhat inexperienced with CK3 as well, but the two of them both managed to, with much aid from the player of Deseret, which is a ridiculous country still, but I laugh every time I see it, build up a strong realm in southern India, which is small in width, but very highly developed. I expect good things from them, and their syncretization of the various religions of the region. Meanwhile, the Mormons had expanded very far into India and have had some of their lands diminished, as you may see as a result of that. Their ambitions are great, and their freedom immense. Few are present to contest the expansion of Deseret, but what will they do with this freedom to expand? The current ruler, Valar Schmidt, is an extremely powerful character, with Hiram being an equally powerful character, I assure you. The actions of these two rulers will come to define the vibes of Asia going forward in the Mega. Also present are two very experienced players who are starting with much smaller situations as a result of that. As well as the fact that the regions simply weren't in CK3 yet. Palembang is played by a pirate LARPing Malaysia, and in Japan, I believe we had a Uesugi. I don't remember exactly where he started, but there is a Japanese player. And with that, I believe we have come to an end of the players. Yes, there originally was going to be a player on Ireland in CK3, but he dipped out, and then he took over to substitute England. The other two nations that I neglected to mention being Swabia and Bohemia. Swabia ending up with a little bit of Slavodoxic left in their lands, and the Bohemians on the eve of the renewed Hussite wars. We shall see which path each of them takes. With that, thank you all for watching this recap, and I hope to see you next time once the EU4 videos have been published. So long for now.